The world is in lockdown, and that is not just tough for our well-being, but also for our wallets. All over the world, economies are taking massive hits, but not all lockdowns are implemented equal, and so the resulting economic shocks won't be either. In this video, I will take a look at the top 5 most strict, economy-crushing lockdowns. So, what are the top 5 strictest lockdowns? Before getting into that, let me first quickly tell you how I compiled this list. I did so with the University of Oxford's Stringency Index, and a link to that can be found in the description of this video. To get a top 5, I observed all days that these countries had a max stringency lockdown in effect, which means that they score the full 100 points in the Stringency Index. What is a 100-point lockdown? Well, it means that only essential businesses are allowed to remain open and people have to stay in their homes unless they are an essential worker or if they need to buy food or medicine. That means no morning jog, no visiting relatives, no leisurely stroll in the park, no, not even walking the dog. But there are many countries with these 100% lockdowns. So how to pick a top 5? For that, I just counted how many days these countries had the strictest form of lockdown in place and picked the 5 countries which had them the longest. Between these countries, the differences in days are not that big, but I still want to order them from super strict to even stricter, and therefore I take into account country-specific factors. Think about heavy enforcement of rules, or a very narrow definition of what is considered essential, or even financial repression. Now, with that being said, let's go to the first country on the list. Not surprisingly, Rwanda was quick to act. That has been in some form of lockdown for the longest on the African continent. However, their 100% hard lockdown has been going on 30 days now and is only projected to end on the 30th of April. Some notable developments for Rwanda are that they have started court hearings by television, are using drones to catch lockdown transgressors, and the government has sent out food to 20,000 people who have been negatively affected. Now that is really something other nations can learn from. Guatemala initially appeared at the top of my list because it has been in 100% lockdown for 34 days. That is the longest of all countries on this list. Why is it not higher on the list then? Well, mainly because the lockdowns of the next countries on the list are even stricter. Like Rwanda, Serbia has been in 100% lockdown for 30 days now. What makes their lockdown stand out is that there are some extra strict measures on senior citizens who are only allowed to leave the house to go grocery shopping at certain hours. Furthermore, there are several reports that the government is using this crisis to specifically target journalists and government critics. Most notably, the state has arrested musician Jovana Popovic, who just happens to also be the author of a popular anti-regime song. Lebanon has now been in the strictest lockdown phase for 33 days. But what makes their lockdown extra tough is that they went into it in the middle of a full-blown financial crisis. This made the strict lockdown tougher on its citizens as they did not have the financial buffers to deal with it. And while there were already capital controls in place, meaning that citizens could withdraw a maximum of $100 foreign currency daily, now that has been reduced to 0, unless these dollars had been recently deposited or sent from abroad. Speaking of financial buffers, many South Africans never had any buffers to begin with. Nonetheless, the South African government has implemented one of the strictest lockdowns known to man, which has now been going on for 33 days. Not only were all essential businesses forced to close, the government has a very strict interpretation of what is essential. For example, hot food is not considered essential.
Hence, you cannot order a hot pizza to be delivered to your door while ordering a box of cold groceries is still acceptable. Furthermore, even though supermarkets are allowed to be open, they are not allowed to sell non-essential items. That means that supermarkets have taped off whole aisles such as bakeware and have been fined for selling roasted chicken. And while Amazon is seeing increased business all around the globe, its South African counterpart, Takealot, is not allowed to sell anything but food and personal protective equipment. If that wasn't strict enough, the country has forbidden the sale of both alcohol and cigarettes to prevent any liquor from ending up in domestic hands through the back door. The most important alcohol exports, such as wine and port, have been forbidden. That is a heavy economic hit for one of the world's biggest wine exporters. Why did they prohibit alcohol in the first place? Well, the government hopes that this will improve both the immune system of South Africans, plus that it will reduce domestic violence and crime. And while there were indications of these last two working in the short run, now the people are growing weary, and not surprisingly, several liquor stores have already been stormed and looted by crowds.
And that was the list. Now, I have to be honest, it was a bit easier for me to get all the relevant information on the South African lockdown, since I have the good fortune of experiencing it here in Cape Town. Now, that being said, I have two questions for you. First, did you agree with the countries that I picked for this top 5? And second, did I do the countries justice in this video? Please let me know the answer to both of these in the comments.